We begin with some breaking news. The militant group Hamas is about to release 3 more Israeli hostages and 5 Thai captives in exchange for 110 Palestinian prisoners. This is the 3rd such exchange since a ceasefire in Gaza came into effect earlier this month. You are looking at live pictures from Khan Yunis in Gaza as this exchange is taking place. A soldier and an 80-year-old man are among the Israelis confirmed to be returning home. The identity of the Thai nationals is unknown. A prominent militant leader is among the Palestinians who will be released by Israel. Hamas says they will not release all the hostages until the Israeli military fully withdraws from Gaza. Well, joining me now in the studio is our Middle East analyst, Shani Razanis. Shani, good to have you with us. So what more can you tell us about the hostages that are being released today, supposedly any minute now?
Exactly, and we have 2 locations. We have 2 of the civilians. One of them, the oldest, is 80 years old man who's been kept in captivity for 15 months, and with him a 30-year-old woman, Arbel Yahud. She was also the cause for why we are seeing this somewhat unexpected release, in a sense that it wasn't part of the original plan for the deal, but it was a last-minute installment because Israel was using her release as sort of a leverage in order to secure her release, because she's the last female civilian to be released. And she is expected to be released in the south part of the Gaza Strip, along with Gadi Moses, the 80-year-old man. And then on the northern part, what we are seeing now behind us on the screen, this is Jabalia. This is the northern part, not the south, sorry, the northern part of the strip. This is where we'll see Agam Berger. She is a 20-year-old soldier. She's the last one left behind after 4 of her other soldiers who served with her in the same army base were released on Saturday. She was left alone in the last week, and she's going to be the last Israeli female soldier to be released.
Would that there we got a close-up now.
What we're seeing is there she is. She's right there on the screen. We're seeing the same ceremony as we've been seeing her other Israeli soldiers last Saturday. Going through. They get this certificate. They are presented to the crowd. They are asked to wave to the masses waiting there on that stage in the northern part of the Gaza Strip next to Jabalia. Of course, she's surrounded by Hamas militants. You see them wearing full gear, as well as their green headbands that indicate they are Hamas militants. And you see the Red Cross vehicle very clearly. This is where she's going to be transferred now. She is right now being transferred into the hands of the Red Cross. And from there, she will be taken to the outskirts of the Gaza Strip, where she will find the Israeli military waiting for her, and from there, of course, brought into Israeli territory, where she will meet her parents and her family, many people who have waited for 15 months to see her come back home.
This suggests that the ceasefire agreement is going ahead as it was originally proposed, I guess. Is everything going according to plan as you understand it?
Well, and seemingly very, very seamless also. We've seen the first release was a very chaotic scene. Now we see Hamas sort of manage to control the scene much better, guarding the vehicle, making sure that she doesn't need to be rushing through many Palestinians who were waiting and gathering, as we've seen at the first release about 2 weeks ago on Saturday. And things seem to be going quite smoothly. We will have to, of course, see the next installment coming this Saturday. Is things, are things as smooth as it seems so far? What is very clear is that both Hamas and Israel seem to be eager to move on with the conditions set. And it could be connected to the very big pressure we see the American administration applying in order to secure at least the first part of the deal, which is where we are at now, being completed. We also know Trump's aide, an envoy to the Middle East, is now in Israel. He was visiting Gaza himself just yesterday, and he is expected to meet with some of those released in the last days, in the next days while he is in Israel. We also know Netanyahu is expected at the White House early next week on Monday, which is not coincidentally also the day where both sides, Israel and Hamas, are supposed to start real negotiations on the second part of the deal. And the second part of the deal, after the 42 days are completed, will be ideally bringing the complete end of the war and not just a ceasefire, and the release of the remaining 60-plus prisoners that are still not part of this deal. And I just want to repeat what we're seeing now. It's live scenes from Jabalia, from the north part of Gaza, where we see the Red Cross convoy with Agam Berger, an Israeli soldier, a 20-year-old soldier who was kidnapped on October 7th, 15 months ago. She is, with the Red Cross's help, going to be now transferred to the hands of the Israeli military, where she will then meet her family and loved ones and start her very long recovery in Israel. We cannot forget that other very important part, which is the release of Palestinian prisoners and detainees. That is the second part of this deal. There's what Israel is getting, and then there's what Israel is giving. So the rate of exchange, as cynical as it is that for every soldier that is being released, and Agam is the only and the last soldier in this part of the deal that we are talking about, Israel needs to release 50 Palestinians. Out of those 50, 30 need to be Palestinians who have been convicted for life in prison for committing terror acts, murderous crimes, and so on, and the other 20 are civilians. In addition to that, in exchange to the other 2 civilians to be released in the southern part of the Strip soon enough, Israel will release 60 other civilian prisoners, sorry, not civilians, rather Palestinian prisoners, including women and children. Some of them are detained in a very, in an act of administrative detainees that are not actually seeing a judge and are not being fully processed in the system, and that's, of course, a very controversial mean of detaining Palestinians. But this is the scene we're seeing now in the north of the Gaza Strip, where Red Cross vehicles are moving out of the Khan Yunis area with Agam Berger, an Israeli soldier who has just been released and transferred into the Red Cross hands.
Shani, thank you very much for now. That's our Middle East analyst, Shani Rosanis. And for more, we can now cross to our correspondent, Tanya Kramer, who is standing by at the so-called Hostage Square in Tel Aviv, the square where hundreds of people have watched the return of previous hostage releases. Tanya, if you can hear me, tell us what the mood is like there today.
Well, we just had a short while ago, in the first pictures, there's a screen here behind me, and people are watching, a couple of hundred people here around here on a Thursday morning. And, when the first pictures appeared of the hostage being released, there was a lot of, clapping of hands and a lot of joy and happiness here, obviously, seeing her finally released. Now, we are also, of course, waiting for 2 more hostages being released. Then they're on 2 locations at this time. But you can imagine, this is every time. We've seen this now in the past 2 weeks, 2 hostage releases now. Again, today on Thursday, the special hostage release, I have to say, which wasn't actually planned. That came into being because there was this dispute over the release of a civilian hostage, Abel Yehud, and we're waiting to see her now also being released today. So that was a release now today on Thursday, and then we see another release of 3 more hostages then on Saturday. But having said that, of course, there's still a lot of concern. We're talking to people here, whether all of this will hold. Every hostage that comes back alive, there's a lot of joy here, obviously, but there's also a lot of concern for those who will be staying behind for now, and that everything goes according to plan as well.
Talk to us about those who will be staying behind for now, the other hostages that are being held in the Gaza Strip by Hamas and perhaps other groups there as well. How many hostages are still being held, Tanya? Do we know?
Well, we do know that in the first phase, 33 hostages will be released. Now, we've seen now basically 2 hostage releases, 3 and 4, among them the civilian females and also the female soldiers being released now. Agam Berger, another female soldier that was released, she just went, was handed over to the International Red Cross and is now being taken, probably then handed over to Israeli special forces, to the Israeli military, and then crossing back into Israeli territory from there. But then again, we do have, the rest of those 33 hostages that will be released within those 42 days. And Hamas had, as part of this agreement, they had handed over a list saying how many of them, of the 33, are alive and how many are actually dead. So we know that 18 of those 33 hostages are alive, and we have the others that are presumed to have died in captivity or already on October 7. Now this is for those being expected to be released in the first phase, but then we have of course those over 60 hostages that will be staying behind in Gaza, that will remain in Gaza in captivity. Those will only be released then in the second phase that will have to be negotiated between between Hamas and the other militant factions and Israel.
Tanya, thank you very much. That was our correspondent Tanya Kramer in Tel Aviv.